السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو إليه النشور. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم إنا أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي، طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. ثم ما بعد. As you see, our topic for tonight is all about Zakah for American Muslims. Zakah is a very long and detailed topic, and of course we need hours and hours, sometimes even courses in the university to cover every single aspect of Zakah and the differences between scholars. This is definitely will not be done tonight because we have only 45 minutes presentation, and then I'll open the floor for question and answer. We're going to finish everything inshallah before Salat al-Isha. Salat al-Isha will be at 8 o'clock. So having said that, as you see in the title here, for American Muslims, of course when it comes to Zakat al-Zuru' wal-Thimar, like agricultural products, we're going to skip it. Zakat al-Bahimat al-An'am, like if you have cattle or if you have livestock, we're going to skip it, and so on and so forth. We'll focus only on whatever I would say related to us American Muslims. Let's go briefly and start with the fact that substituting zakah by taxes is insufficient. You need to consider paying tax to the government because you live in this society, because you work and you earn money, as well as you have to pay zakatul mal. Now, which one comes first? The recipients of the zakah, the recipients of the tax money are, slightly or significantly different. We pay tax money, we benefit from our own tax money some way, somehow. When it comes to zakatul mal, basically the default rule is that you are not supposed to benefit from your zakah money, right? You are either a zakah payer or a zakah recipient or none of the above, right? Like if you break even, for example, you do not have extra wealth to pay zakah, yet you are not that needy individual. You do not give zakah and you do not, take zakah from other people. Zakah is paid based on the remaining wealth. That's a good point. When you start filing for your tax, you start with the annual income. How much you made in 2022, for example. You made $100,000 straight. So you report to the IRS 100,000, and of course there are a lot of deductions based on family members and payments if you have mortgage, if you have some other tuition fees, for example, for your undergraduate kids and so on and so forth. But you start the math. You start the math with the total income. In our example, if you made $100,000 and you mark your calendar for the month of Ramadan, to be the zakat due date where you pay zakatul mal, and you ended up having only $20,000 remaining still accessible, owned by you, then you start your math with how much? With 20,000 only. So we do not care about how much you made. What we care about is how much you have, owned exclusively by you, accessible to you in the zakat due date. You start your math from that, figure amount on. Moving on, a lot of details here, so I need to skip them. Zakatable wealth. Zakatable wealth means what is to be included in your zakah calculation. And of course, the very first category that belongs to all of us here is what we call it the personal zakatable wealth, which is the cash. Any kind of money, cash money that you have, whether in your checking account, in your saving account, cash in hand in your pocket, at home with your wife, with your kids, as long as that money has been provided by you, right? Whether you received an income tax return from the government, stimulus check, unemployment, payment, whatever, any kind of inheritance, money that you inherited from other people, okay, that will be counted as cash, as an income, and it has to be included. And then after that, we have the business category. What does it mean, business? Okay, we need to ask a question, what kind of business you have, right? Let's go with a very simple example. Someone has a car dealership or a grocery store. Anything that is counted as merchandise, as a commodity, as goods, anything that is for sale, right? Whether display items or an actual real item like on shelves for sale, or like even inventory, something that will be sold in the future. Anything that is counted as urudu tijara, anything that is for sale is to be included and not to be excluded. Now this means by default, otherwise is to be excluded, like all the tools, all the materials, all the devices, or the machineries that you use to run your business, right, are to be excluded. So we just focus on urudu tijara. Urudu tijara means the merchandise or the commodity. Now this is one kind of business. Another kind of business is what we call the exploited assets or rental properties in a very simple language. ماشي الحال؟ طيب جزاك الله. So business zakatable wealth, here we go. As you see here, trading goods, merchandise, exploited assets, we call it zakatul mustaghallat. It's a kind of business where the actual business, actual product is not for sale. However, you generate money out of using it. Very good example, taxi cab. Someone has a taxi cab. That vehicle itself is not for sale. So even if it is like very valuable, 100,000 or more, you don't have to pay zakah on it. You pay zakah on the money generated out of providing transportation service. Somebody else has a rental property. You have a house that you live in and another house that is for rent. As long as that rental property is rented, okay, and you make money, the lease revenue is the zakatable one, regardless of the market value of the house itself. By the way, if you change your mind later on, and instead of having that property as a rental property, you just remove that sign for rent and you put another sign for sale. As long as you put it in the market, active in the market, then you have to pay zakah on the market value of the house on an annual basis, whether the house is sold or not. So the market value of the house is $500,000. Okay, you put it for sale in the month of Ramadan 2023, 1444, right? If that house for some reason is not sold until Ramadan of next year, you still have the house, still active in the market, you still have your own real estate agent waiting for potential buyers, right? And the house is not sold. How much is the market value of the house next Ramadan? Oh, it went up to 550. You pay zakah on 550. It went down to only $400,000 for whatever reason it might be. You pay zakah on $400,000 and so on and so forth. Why? Because the house in this case, in this scenario, became a urud tijar. It became like a property for sale. No difference between the house in this case and the cars that you have in your lot if you have a car dealership, or the groceries, like grocery items that you have in a grocery store, and so on and so forth. Moving on, agriculture products, we're gonna skip it. Livestock, we're gonna skip it. Treasury troves, we're gonna skip it. Okay. Here is a qaida or a fiqh maxim here, which is zakah is potentially due on all products whose sources are not zakatable, which means there is no scenario where you have to pay zakah on the source of the income or the profit or the money that you generate, as well as on the profit itself. It's either or. Okay, لا ثنا في الصدقة, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it has more than one interpretation. One interpretation is that you are not supposed to pay your zakah more than once a year, And the second interpretation, you don't have to pay zakah on the source. You see here, we have products and we have source, product and source. Let's take, for example, agricultural products. Do you have to pay zakah on the land itself? You don't have to. Why? Because you pay zakah on the agricultural products. Okay, now you have a cattle, for example. Okay, bahimatul an'am. You have, let's say, 1,000 cows or buffalo. Are they zakatable or not? Yes, they are, of course. You have to pay zakah on them. What if you change your mind and you started using that cattle for dairy products purposes, right? From that point on, you don't have to pay zakah on the cattle, right? You pay zakah on the money that you make out of producing and selling and making money, out of selling dairy products. So that's the meaning of لا ثنا في الصدقة. There is no duplication in taxation. It's either or. Take those examples here. Dairy from livestock. You don't have to pay zakah on the livestock. You start paying zakah on the dairy products. Eggs from poultry. Even if you have 1 million chicken, right? Chicken is zakah exempt. But since you produce eggs and you sell and you make money, you pay zakah on the money that you generate out of producing eggs. Silk from silkworms, and so on and so forth. So the qaida actually applies to any kind of business where you have a source and you have a product. Source and product. Zakah actually is either to be paid on the source or otherwise on the product. And there is no scenario. Yeah, if you give me just half an hour, let me just present, and I will open the floor for question and answer. How about that? Deal? Right. So it's either or, and it's not by choice, by the way. Now we go with the dalil. We go with the dalil. Here, for example, we do have a hadith, although it's not that authentic, that zakatul asal, okay, honey from bees, you pay zakat 10% on the profit that you make out of producing honey. Okay, zakatul rikaz. Now, non-zakatable wealth. I mean, whatever we covered is what to be included. Now, what to be excluded here? Property for personal, family, and non-commercial use. Anything that is not called as a business, anything that's not growable, right? You have a house, okay? Use it as a residential property for your personal use, right? It's your primary residence. Even if it's worth $2 million, $3 million, it is zakah exempt. Even if you have more than one house, as long as the other house that you have maybe in a different state or even maybe back home, as long as that house is locked, it's not for sale, it's not for rent. It's just locked throughout the whole year long until you go vacation every now and then. If that is the case, then the other house actually is zakah exempt. So clothing, for example, even if you have more than what you need, by the way, even if you have more than what, of course, I mean, as a practicing Muslim, you are not supposed to lead an extravagant lifestyle, right? If you need only 3 cars for yourself, for your spouse, and your son, you are not supposed to have 6 or 7 cars. You see? However, if you do have more than what you need, you will be held liable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of being extravagant, because of the israf. But the fact that you have more than what you need does not make the excessive or the extra zakatable. Because actually the category, the standard here is that, is it for sale and making money or for your personal use? Personal use is zakah exempt. Between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to make sure that you do not buy or purchase or own way more than what you need. So residence, transportation, clothing, food, whatever you have, everything actually is zakah. Okay, domestic animals, tools, devices. Okay, maybe some of you are doctors here. You have your own hospital, you have your own practice, your own clinic, right? All the machines and the tools and the devices that you use to run your business are zakah exempt. The only thing that is zakatable is the money that you generate, okay, out of providing that healthcare service to your patients. Property in public trust, anything that is not privately owned, is not zakatable. Masjid, for example, even the awqaf, designated properties for endowment. If your masjid, for example, has an apartment complex, right, as an endowment fund for the masjid, so the lease revenue actually is designated for the masjid. Everything actually is zakah exempt. unlawful wealth, la samahallah, Allah forbids, if someone has stolen money or generated money out of like dealing with riba, or was cheating, or like through bribery, bribed someone, or received bribery from others, any kind of haram money is zakah exempt. Zakah exempt in a sense that even if you pay zakah on it, it will never be purified, right? The only thing actually is to return that money to its legitimate owner. If that money is extorted, like taken by force or stolen, for example, it has to be paid back to the, given back to the legitimate owner. If you do not know the legitimate owner, you just dispose that money. You get rid of that money on behalf of the legitimate owner. This is the only way where you can clear your record with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah ta'ala tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyib. Allah is pure and does not accept whatever is not pure. Criteria for zakah payers. Who is supposed to pay zakat al-mal? Of course, this is like a formal act of worship, so Muslims are addressed with different rules of zakah, reaching the minimum threshold or the nisab. And nisab actually is 85 grams of gold. So if the net amount, after deducting everything, after paying all the due debts, if you still have whatever is equivalent to 85 grams of gold, when I say gold, I mean the 24 karat, like the pure, gold, right? 24 karat. I would say nowadays around $50 per gram, so 50 times 85, that's 4,260? 60 plus? Can you do the math for me, please? Okay, 65, let's go with 60. 60 times 85 grams. Let's be in the safe side. If you do have $5,000 net amount and not a gross amount, there is a huge difference between the gross and the net amount. You might have gross amount, $100,000, but after deducting all the due debts and the diyun and other iltizamat, whatever financial commitment that you have in that particular month, you might go down like, less than the nisab, and you are zakah exempt, believe it or not. So let's go with the net amount. If the net amount is $5,000 or more, then you have to pay zakah. One common mistake here is that some people think that if the nisab for this year is 5,000 and he or she has $50,000 net amount, okay, they pay zakah on the 45,000. They exclude the nisab, and that's actually a common mistake. Nisab is to be included. Now, what is the use? What is the benefit of identifying the nisab? Is to determine whether or not you are a zakah payer for this year or not. If you do not have a nisab, then you're good to go. You are, zakah exempt for this year. But if you have a nisab or more, then everything actually is to be included, and you cannot exclude the threshold and pay, zakah on the rest of the money. Now, the personal status of the zakah payer, whether the wealthy individual, the zakah payer, is like a minor or adult, like healthy, unhealthy, mentally challenged, or just stable individual, okay, orphan, it does not make any difference whatsoever, right? Because zakah actually is a financial ibadah, unlike salah. Like, for example, we do not mandate our kids 4 or 5 years old to fast in the month of Ramadan, right? Or to perform hajj, or to pray 5 times daily, because this is actually a physical ibadah. This is a physical ibadah. When it comes to zakah, it's not physical, it is a financial one. So as long as that individual does have nisab or more, then zakah on his money has to be paid. So either he pays it by himself if he can manage, do calculation and doing the zakah due diligence, or otherwise his legal guardian, okay, or the one who's taking care of him is supposed to calculate and pay zakah on his behalf. Criteria for zakatable wealth: exclusive ownership of threshold. So you have to make sure that nisab is exclusively owned by you. If you have like a very, very, very small business, okay, $5,000, owned jointly by you and by your non-Muslim business partner, okay, so your share is less than nisab, you don't have to pay zakah, because the other party actually is not a Muslim to start with. So this is what I mean by exclusive ownership of threshold. You are the owner of the threshold. ability of growth actually or potentially means that, again, anything that is not growable by nature, right? It is zakah exempt. And I always bring this example, which is the house that you live in. As long as you live in the house is zakah exempt, regardless of its market value. You move somewhere else and you put that house, the same house that you used to live in, you put it for rent, then you pay zakah on the rent, right? And then you change your mind, you put it for sale, then you pay zakah on the market value of the house. So the same house in the first scenario was zakah exempt. In the second scenario, it became zakatable based on the lease revenue. The third scenario, it became zakatable in full based on its market value. It's all about your intention and your practice as well. Your intention and your practice. So passage of one lunar year means that you don't have to pay zakah more than once a year. So zakah is to be paid on an annual basis. I have heard that some brothers and sisters actually deduct 2.5% from their paycheck as Zakatul Mal. Can you do that? Yes, you can. Do you have to pay your zakah on a monthly basis? No, you don't have to. Well, the philosophy actually behind paying Zakatul Mal once a year is to have a breather, is to have the opportunity of saving some money, investing money, making a profit. From that profit, you can put aside the 2.5% Zakatul Mal. If you decide to pay your zakah on a monthly basis, it defeats the purpose of having the zakah an annual. Well, you can again, but there's a huge difference between can I pay zakah versus do I have to pay zakah. You don't have to pay zakah on monthly basis. However, you can do so. One of the conditions for the wealth itself actually is the accessibility or having a full access. And that's why if you have no access whatsoever, like if you have a pension plan, for example, you work for the government, for the federal or state or county, they do not give you 401k or 403, they give you pension plan, right? Pension plan actually is not, to my knowledge, is not accessible whatsoever. If that is the case, then believe it or not, even if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pension plan, that is zakah exempt. Again, you can pay zakah, but you do not have to pay zakah on it. Limited access, a very good example for it is the regular retirement account, 401k. If you apply for hardship, for a humanitarian case, you will be having an access to 40% or 50% of your 401k. Well, that accessible amount is zakatable. That accessible amount is zakatable. I will discuss it inshallah further. So if you do not have an access whatsoever, that amount actually is not zakatable. Threshold versus poverty line, there is no connection whatsoever. There is no intersection between a threshold and poverty line. Nisab actually is not to be confused with the minimum standard of living. This is economic/governmental standards to determine eligibility of receiving some financial support from the government. Tax waiver, food stamp, whatever the support might be. Nisab actually has nothing to do with it. Nisab is a technical fiqh term, and it has its own definition. Nisab means a minimum amount of wealth or minimum amount of money that if you have it, then you have to pay zakah. If you do not have it, then you are zakah exempt. So it's very, very possible that you are above the poverty line. You make a good amount of money as an annual income, yet you are an eligible zakah recipient because your legitimate expenses are way more than your income. So you make good money, but that good money is insufficient for you, right? With no extravagance, with no israf, with no tabdir. Well, if that is the case, even if you make 100,000 or more, some people might think, wow, he's making good money, right? But in reality, that 100,000 is insufficient for you and for your family members. If that is the case, then you are an eligible zakah recipient, believe it or not. Now, the masjid might deny your application because they have a policy. They want to go with the more needy individuals. That's their policy. We're not discussing masajid policy here. We're discussing the fiqh rules. Are you eligible zakah recipient although you make 100,000? Yes, if you can prove that your expenses are way more than what you make. And vice versa, someone might be under the poverty line, under the apparently, he's eligible, yet that person does have an nisab. Maybe has some agricultural products, maybe he has like a cattle, right, or whatever. even if he falls under the poverty line, but that individual is a zakat payer. So my point here is that there is no connection. Do not assume that if someone is under the poverty line, then by default he or she is an eligible zakat recipient. Or otherwise, if someone is above the poverty line, then he has a zakat payer. Well, this is absolutely incorrect. There is no connection or intersection between the two. You do not have to combine different assets to constitute a nisab. You have some urud tijara, right? Some commodities and merchandise that do not reach $5,000. And you have, some agricultural products that do not reach, 560 plus pounds or kilogram, and so on and so forth. Do you have to put all these different kinds of wealth or assets together to constitute a nisab? You do not have to, because every single category has its own criteria. If you have khamsatu awsuq agricultural products, okay, then you have to pay zakat on the agricultural products. If you have like 30 cows or more, or buffalo, then you have to pay zakat. If you have 29, then you're good to go. You are just, tax or zakat exempt. So you don't have to combine different assets to constitute a nisab. Consistency of possessing a threshold is not necessary, especially for business people. Okay, like at a certain spot in the year, you might run out of commodities and merchandise in your store, okay, and you might run out of cash money because you already made an order. Okay, you paid for the order in advance. You are waiting, for the order. So technically, at that point, you do not have any cash money, right? And you do not have any commodities for sale. So if someone does not know what's going on, he or she might think that you are going under the threshold, and this would ruin the zakat due date or the hawl, which is the fiscal lunar year. This is incorrect. Once you determine that yes, I do have a nisab, and by the way, your zakat due date, technically speaking, if you want to go with the book, it shouldn't be in the month of Ramadan. By the way, it should not. Your hawl, your fiscal lunar year, starts from the day that you constitute or accumulate a nisab. So in the 15th of Safar or Rajab or Rabi' al-Awwal, you constituted $5,000 worth of investment, right? From that point on, you need to mark your calendar and wait for one complete year. 15th of Safar, 15th of Rabi' al-Awwal, 15th of Safar or Rabi' al-Awwal of the next year, you have to pay zakah. In reality, it's close to impossible to remember which day, right, you constitute the nisab. So you just, take it easy, mark your calendar for the month of Ramadan to pay zakat al-mal. Wallahu ghafur rahim. But if you want to go with the book, actually this is incorrect. So consistency of possessing the threshold actually is not necessary. Your nisab, your zakat due date is the month of Ramadan. Okay? After paying your zakah, let's say Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, Safar, Rabi' al-Awwal, Rabi' al-Thani. In Rabi' al-Thani, you went below the nisab. Doesn't make a difference. Just keep going with your business. If you reach to next Ramadan or Ramadan of next year and you still have a nisab, then you are still a zakat payer, regardless of the fluctuation that took place throughout the whole year long. Salaries and professional fees. You have your own professional service. You are a lawyer, physician, engineer, consultant, physical therapist, whatever the profession might be. You experience, money, fees, right? Cash money, checks from your clients, from your customers on a regular basis. Sometimes you receive money on daily basis, right? Some people think that paying zakah on an annual basis means that you have to keep a track of every single payment that you receive. So yesterday you received $5,000. Today you received $1,000. You need to keep a track of everything. This is incorrect. Forget about the cash flow that you experience. Forget about it. You have only one source of income, which is your profession. You work as a physician, right? If you do have in your checking account $5,000 or more, then by default that money came from the business that you have, right? Any amount on top of the nisab will be taking the same rule of the nisab itself. So the nisab is 5,000, right? And just 1 or 2 days before the beginning of Ramadan, you received a check of $25,000, okay? And you deposit that money. 1 or 2 days, the month of Ramadan is started. Do you have to pay zakat on that big check of 25,000? Yes, because that money actually is called al-mal al-mustafad, like the extra money. Al-mal al-mustafad takes the same rule of the nisab itself. If the nisab is established already, whatever you have on top of the nisab will be taking the same rule of the nisab. As long as that money is coming from the same source of income. Remember, you are a physician, and the only source of income you have is the money that you receive from your patients or from the insurance companies. So that cash flow should be added up to the checking account that you have or your business account that you have. Whatever you have in the zakat due date, even if some of that money came just a few hours before the beginning of Ramadan, that money is to be included and not to be excluded. What if that money came completely from a different source of income? You inherited money from one of your relatives who just passed away. This is a very, very irregular income. Okay, you inherited, let's say, $500,000. Okay, your nisab, your zakat due date, the regular one, is Ramadan 1st of each year, right? Now, in the month of Rabi' al-Awwal, you received $500,000 inheritance, mirath. Do you have to add up that $500,000 to the other account that you have? No, you don't have to. You establish a new hawl for that, inherited money or that asset. Thank you. Right? So Rabi' al-Awwal, you just mark your calendar. Next year, if you still have that money, right, available, accessible, then you have to pay zakat. So you end up having how many zakat due date in your case? 2. One of them is for the regular income, and the other one is for the very irregular income. Jewelry and ornament, long story short, as long as the jewelry is for the personal use of the sister, okay, as well as within the average in that society, within the average, and that average actually differs from one society to another, from one age to other. A sister like 25 years old is way different from 70 or 80 years old. A sister living in USA, way different from a sister living in Syria or Jordan or in Pakistan, for example. So whatever is well known as a, prevailing, custom, prevailing practice, common practice in that society is the standard. If the common practice here is that, up to $25,000, up to $30,000 worth of jewelry is a very common practice, and a sister does have up to $30,000, that jewelry actually is zakat exempt, right? But what if she has $100,000 worth of jewelry? Oh, that's way too much, right? So the first 30,000 are zakat exempt, and the remaining are zakatable. This is actually to take into consideration the different opinions or different madhahib regarding zakatability on jewelry. If you want to go purely with the Hanafi school of thought that is followed by the most people in the subcontinent, like in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? They follow the Hanafi school of thought. So according to the Ahnaf, jewelry actually is zakatable. I'm not here, by the way, to discourage anyone from paying zakah on jewelry. If you do pay zakah on jewelry, keep up the good job. The more zakah you pay, the more reward you will be getting. But there is a huge difference again between, do I have to pay zakah on the jewelry versus can I pay zakah? Well, you can. But do you have to pay zakah? My answer actually is no. As long as that jewelry is within the average, number one. And number two, for your personal use. You did not buy that jewelry for business purposes. You are not waiting for the price to go up and to sell what you have, and whenever it goes down, you buy. This is not your practice, right? That jewelry is for you. And when I say for your personal use, it does not mean that you have to use that jewelry regularly. Sometimes you put them aside for any hafla or party or wedding or reception. Maybe use it once a year, once every other year. That would be fine. At the end of the day, that jewelry is not for business purposes, right? If that is the case, within the average, then you're good to go. You don't have to pay zakah on the jewelry that you have. Yeah, if you give me just maybe, how much time you have? Hour for me to keep talking, or 20 minutes طيب plus tax ولا including tax طيب retirement account. Okay, well, let's go with the investment in the stock market in general, because retirement account belongs to stock market, right? Whether it is individual retirement account or employer-based retirement account. If you want to go with the retirement account that is employer-based retirement account, you need to find out how much is the accessible, thank you, how much is the accessible amount you have in your 401k, whether your contribution or the match of your employer. Okay, in the Zakat due date, you have $1 million straight, just to keep it simple. If you apply, just hypothetically speaking, you applied for hardship, you applied for humanitarian case, okay? Fidelity or Vanguard might give you an access to, let's say, 50% of your account, right? So the accessible amount is how much? $500,000. If you decide to proceed, and by the way, this is like a very theoretical math, you don't have to withdraw the money. It's just like a math that you do off record in order for you to determine how much you have to pay, right? So the accessible amount is $500,000. If you decide to proceed, you will not be taking home $500,000. You will be penalized, you will be charged interest, processing fees, tax. It depends on what kind of retirement account you have. So let's say that total charges, okay, after the prescribed penalty, prescribed tax, or whatever, let's say that take home amount is $450,000. That is the zakatable money. Well, even within those $450,000, you have two options. If you want to be in the safe side, okay, just have a peace of mind and pay zakat 2.5% on the 450. If you want to go with the book, as they say, you do not want to pay one single penny extra, you still can deduct another maybe 15 or 20% usul thabita, fixed assets, because those stocks that you hold in your retirement account do not represent commodities and merchandise 100%. Every single company does have its own fixed assets, right? Offices and machineries and devices and tools and so on and so forth. So roughly speaking, 15-20% actually is safe enough. So you do the math, the net amount is the zakatable one. You pay zakat based on 2.5%. You pay zakat based on 2.5%. This is actually a kind of ijtihad actually. This is like, intellectual, reasoning. And this is our official position at our Fiqh Council, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, AMJA, right? We might be right, we might be wrong, Allahu A'lam. If you ask like a different, people of knowledge, their answer might be, well, forget about your 401k. It's not zakatable whatsoever. Just wait until you get retired and then you start paying zakat on it. That's a very valid opinion, by the way. If you ask another one that you trust his knowledge and his commitment to his deen, answer might be, well, you have to pay zakah on 100% of what you have. So we have like two different extreme opinions here, okay? Your retirement account is zakatable in full 100% versus your retirement account is zakah exempt, right? We hold the stick from the middle. We say, well, find out every single year what is the accessible amount and do the math here, how much you will be charged if you decide to proceed and withdraw as much as you can. Net amount is zakatable based on 2.5%. What if you think that this opinion is like reasonable, makes sense, okay, and you did not pay zakah on your retirement account for the last 20-25 years? Do you have to backdate that fatwa and go back to 1995 when you get your job for the first time? Do you have to? You don't have to. Okay. Afallahu amma salaf. From now on, you just embrace that opinion and start applying it. Forget about what's happened in the past. Why? Because again, this is like a kind of ijtihad, like independent reasoning, right? We might be right, we might be wrong. Allahu A'lam. Moving on. Okay, what if you have investment in the stock market that is outside the retirement account? Okay, now you have two different scenarios. Some of us actually some of us might have stocks. Okay, I mean, you might have like a TD Ameritrade app and you buy stocks and you just save them in the stock market, and you are not that interested in in trading on a regular basis. You are not active in the stock market, right? You do not like buy and sell and you watch the news and the indexes. No, you are not that person. You are happy with the dividend that you make, right? If this is what you usually do, buying stocks, sleeping on them, okay, getting some dividend, and that's it. If this is like a long-term investment, if you wish, if this is your common practice, then you don't have to pay zakah on the principal amount or the market value, the service value of your account. Okay, you have $75,000 worth of investment, and you made only $5,000 dividend. You pay zakah on the $5,000 only. Okay, on the dividend. Why? Because the stocks in this scenario are not urud tijara, they are not for sale. Versus somebody else who is very active in the market, right? Always like, speculates, like buys and sells and, watches the news and so on and so forth. Okay? For that person, the stocks that he or she has are urud tijara. Everything is for sale. Well, urud tijara actually are zakatable. So he has to pay zakah on everything, on the principal amount and the dividend that he makes. Doesn't make a difference if you have chosen to keep the dividend, like capitalize the dividend, like you kept it in the account by purchasing more stocks, versus withdrawing the dividend and using it for yourself. Doesn't make a difference. You have to pay zakah on the dividend. Any kind of bonds, derivatives, futures, options, you need to stay away from them. The majority of those financial instruments are not allowed. I'm not saying that every single option is haram, okay? But the mainstream fatwa nowadays is that bonds is an interest-bearing loan, right? Derivatives, المشتقات المالية, CDS, CDO, مش عارف, those are actually nonsense financial instruments. They are not backed up by any commodity or merchandise. They do not represent any service. They're just like a piece of paper. And this is actually not something that you should consider as a practicing Muslim. You trade in something that makes sense, right? You buy, you sell, you produce, you commission, you add some value to the society by the business that you do, right? So stay away from any financial instrument that is non-stock, right? Especially when it comes to bonds. Bonds actually is a straightforward interest-bearing loan. You lend the federal government a certain amount of money, right? And you get interest. So zakah on bonds, the principle itself is zakatable. You have a T-bill, $5,000, right? Its maturity is on January 2024. 2024, you received 5,500. 500 is haram. That's riba. What should you do with it? Dispose it, right? You can put it in the masjid, you can put it in donation, give it to anyone, but you cannot spend it on yourself and your family members or your dependents. While the $5,000 principles are still zakatable. You need to pay zakah, you need to pay zakah on them. Options, futures, derivatives, okay. Zakah on loans, if you lended others money, you do not have to pay zakah as a lender. Because one of the conditions for the zakatability of any asset or money is al-mulku tam raqabatan wa yadan, full ownership and full access. Okay, you gave someone $100,000, qardun hasan, interest-free loan, right? It's very, very unfair for you as a lender, okay, to wait for 1 year and to incur the inflation, okay, and to keep praying that brother or sister will pay you back the money, especially if you give your money to a Muslim brother. Good luck, inshallah. Inshallah, the next year, Ramadan الجاي, عرفت راجعني الشهر الجاي وهكذا. So you wait until you receive your money and you incur the inflation and you pay zakah 2.5% on a money that you do not have an access to. That's very, very unfair. By the way, there is nothing authentic could be attributed to the Prophet ﷺ regarding zakat al-diyun. Nothing whatsoever. Otherwise, we'll be just saying سمعنا وأطعنا. There is no such evidence. And that's why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the Tabi'een and the founders of the 4 different madhahib and the contemporary fiqh councils are still having the same disagreement on who is supposed to pay zakah on the loan, right? It's either the lender or the borrower, right? Or both of them or none of the above. None of the above actually is not applicable. There is some money that has to be charged zakah. Charging both of them is incorrect. I mean you cannot. لا ثنا في الصدقة, no duplication in taxation. So it's not possible to ask the borrower and the lender both to pay zakat on the same amount. So we ended up having either the lender or the borrower. Well, if the lender does not have an access to it, then who else has to pay zakat? Well, the borrower. If you are the borrower and you kept the money for one complete year without spending the money, well, you have to pay zakat on it. If you took that money to pay, for the tuition fees or for the rent of your apartment, and you took that money, you spent it already, well, there is no money to worry about to start with. So you're good to go, right? But if you decided to borrow money and you slipped on the money for one complete year without spending it, well, you have to be penalized. You have to be charged zakat, and you have to pay, zakat based on 2.5%. Now, if you are the lender and you received the money, you start paying zakat on it. You just wait for one complete year, and you resume paying zakat on the money. Mortgage and other payments, all the due debts for that particular month, okay, are deductible. So let's say, for example, that your zakatable wealth, okay, your net amount, how about that? Your net amount is $200,000 straight. And you owe the mortgage company, of course, this is regardless of mortgage, haram or halal, that's a completely different discussion. You owe the mortgage company $200,000. Can you say, okay, I have $200,000 and I'm in debt of $200,000, so I'm zakat exempt? Is that accurate? Well, if you decide to pay off the outstanding balance to the mortgage company, go for it. But you cannot put the $200,000 aside, okay, to excuse yourself from paying Baitul Mal, and meanwhile you do not pay that money to the mortgage company. Nice try. You cannot do that. It's either or. You either put it aside and you pay it, so you run out of cash, thus consequently you are zakat exempt because you do not have any nisab, or otherwise you say no, that loan to the mortgage company is not due in full. I owe the mortgage company how much? $2,000, $3,000 a month. So that monthly payment is to be, put aside, but not the total amount. That $200,000 in our example are due within the next 10 years. Why you take advantage of the undue debts and you excuse yourself, okay, from paying Zakatul Mal because you are in debt? Well, if that is the case, why do not you take into consideration your potential income for the next 10 years and you pay zakat on them? You see, using the same logic. Of course, none of the above actually apply. You are not supposed to pay zakat on a potential income, and you are not supposed to excuse yourself from paying zakat because of a potential debt or an undue debt. So you just احنا بنصلي على الحاضر مثل ما نقول. بنصلي على الحاضر. Whatever you have on the zakat due date, okay? Whatever you have in the any kind of debt that's due, you still owe the IRS money you did not pay. We are like doing our tax nowadays, right? So just imagine that the month of Ramadan came and you did not pay the IRS, Uncle Sam, whatever you owe the government. That amount actually is to be put aside. You still have $3,000 for the mortgage for that particular month. Put it aside. Another $500 for the car, right? An installment. Put it aside. You need another $5,000 for yourself and your family members, food, drink, transportation, living expenses. Put them aside. Another due debt, $7,000. Put it aside. You just keep deducting all the way until you reach to a point where you have a certain amount that's called the net amount. Net amount actually is the zakatable loan. Is it $5,000 or more? If the answer is yes, then you have to pay zakat. You went below 5,000, you are zakat exempt for that, for that year. Business people, they need to go with what's called the wholesale market value. Okay, you have a car dealership business. You have 25 cars on the lot, right? Owned by you in the zakat due date, right? How much you have to pay zakat? How to determine the value of your business at that day? Some people actually go with the book value, okay, or the invoice value, which means that how much they already paid for those cars. This is actually unfair. I mean, it's not fair. Because the current value of the cars that you have might be the same, might be more, or might be less. Especially like if you trade in food and a snack, right? Sometimes like you purchase a snack and it got expired. Its market value is 0, right? And you already paid 10, 15,000 for that chips or that asir or whatever. So do not go with the invoice value. And do not go with the retail value, by the way. For those 25 cars that you have in your lot in the zakat you did, if you are asking for $500,000 retail price, do not pay zakah on $500,000. Because this is actually a potential money. You might receive that money and you might not. So you go with something called the wholesale market value. What does it mean? It means that if you do not have any of those cars, okay, in your lot in the zakat you did, and you want to go to the auction to purchase all of them at that day, how much you are willing to pay to the auction to buy all these cars? That's the wholesale market value. So you do your math and you pay zakah based on the wholesale market value. Agricultural products, livestock, okay. Zakah recipients, الفقراء المساكين العاملين عليها. Let's go all the way to وَلَفَتِ قُلُوبُهُمْ, like new Muslims. في سبيل الله, for the cause of Allah. Traditionally, as you see here, sponsoring volunteers in legitimate jihad activities like physical jihad, right? The contemporary fiqh councils nowadays are almost unanimous that fi sabilillah does not mean the like physical military jihad activities, legitimate jihad activities. Jihad means striving for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to establish His deen. Even if you insist in sticking to the concept of jihad, Prophet ﷺ himself is the one who said, Jahidul mushrikeen, like apply jihad against the enemies of Islam. Jahidul mushrikeen bi amwalikum wa anfusikum wa alsinatikum. Apply jihad financially, physically, and through education, bi alsinatikum, right? So even if you want to go with the literal meaning of jihad, jihad does not have to be the physical one. It could be education, it could be spiritual, it could be, a financial one, right? So based on that, our fiqh council, AMJA, and the Muslim World, like the Fiqh Council of the Muslim World League, and the Fiqh Council of the European Council of Research and Fatwa, we are unanimous that fi sabilillah does have a lot of flexibility, and based on that, paying zakatul mal to Islamic organizations, especially outside the Muslim world, as long as you believe that that Islamic organization is doing a good job, like it is serving the Muslim community, right? And you trust the leadership of that organization. And they ask for zakatul mal. So how many conditions? 3. Okay, they say clearly that donation, contribution are insufficient. We need your zakah. Then you can confidently pay zakatul mal. So paying zakah in the USA, paying zakatul mal to build a masjid, to maintain a masjid, support an Islamic school, support an Islamic college, paying your zakat to CARE, paying your zakat to MAS, to ICNA, to ISNA, to Muslim Americans for Palestine, whatever organization. Again, if you believe that they are doing a good job, okay, da'wah-wise, you trust the leadership of that organization, and they are asking for zakatul mal, you go ahead and pay them zakatul mal. Personally, I do pay my zakah to my local masjid. I send some of the zakah money overseas. I pay zakatul mal to guidance college that I'm representing today. I pay zakatul mal to MAS, to ISNA, to ICNA. I do not mind, because I do believe that all these organizations, mashallah, are doing a wonderful job serving the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this society, and they deserve our support. They deserve our support. Moving on, في سبيل الله. طيب. دكتورة, am I done? طيب, let me, 5 more minutes? Okay. Some more rules here to consider. There is no maximum amount to give to one recipient, by the way. Your zakah is 7,000, and there is a single young man who's desperate for marriage, and you think that he deserves, your money the most. Can you give the whole 7,000 to that young man to get married? Yes, you can. Can you limit yourself to one category? Only المؤلفة قلوبهم, newcomers. Only fi sabilillah, because my local masjid is in desperate need for my zakah. Can I pay my zakah to my local masjid? Yes, you can. Right? Again, if you trust the leadership and if they ask for your zakah, because some masajid actually are wealthy, like the community is wealthy enough, do not pay your zakah there. Do not, if the community is wealthy enough and they can cover the expenses, expansion, construction, overhead expenses, payroll, whatever the expense might be, right? From their own sadaqah and donation and contribution, membership fees, do not pay zakah. So paying zakat al-mal to Islamic organization is the exception, another default. If I'm to go back to Saudi Arabia or to Jordan or to Algeria or to Pakistan next day in the morning, I should not pay zakat al-mal to sponsor masajid, because they have their own budget and Islamic affairs, Ministry of Islamic Affairs, they take care of the masajid. Here in the West, it's a completely different story. This masjid actually was built a while ago by your donation, and the donation of the Muslim community who are living here. Islamic organizations, churches, synagogues, like all these different places of worship in a very secular society like America are built by the contribution of the congregation or the community members of that particular place of worship. Do not delay your zakah. If you end up having a big amount of money due on your retirement account and you do not have cash money, can you wait until you get some cash? Yes, you can. My advice, do not wait, because it's going to accumulate and it's going to become like more and more complicated. If your zakah for this year is 7,000 and you just say, okay, I do not have enough money, and you wait until next year, what will happen? They're going to jump to 14 or 15,000. Next year, 21,000. So it's going to get like worse. My recommendation, you go ahead and liquidate some of the assets that you have and pay them as zakat al-mal. Make sure that your record with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very clear. Every single year you just pay zakat al-mal. Paying zakah in advance is fine. If you estimate your zakah to be $6,000 a year, okay? And you're afraid that you might not have enough cash in the month of Ramadan, you just go ahead from now and pay $500 a month, right? Yeah. By the month of Ramadan, you will be already paying your due zakah. Let me go to. I would recommend this link. Okay, this is zakifinancial.com. Please feel free to get a copy from the presentation. I gave it to Rosanna. This is not a copyrighted presentation. It's for every Muslim. Go ahead and get your own copy and pass it on to whomever is interested. This is an online application. I do approve it. I went through it in full in details. And you do not have to compromise or to give any personal confidential information. No name, no social security, nothing whatsoever. You just go to this link, fill out the information. It will automatically calculate the zakah for you. And again, I do approve this one, developed by Dr. Ahmed Rami Saltaji, who is the CEO of Zaki Financial. He's a Syrian medical doctor, but he does have a hobby of Islamic finance and investment. So, mashallah, is a certified financial advisor. Anyway, this application is a very simple one, okay, and I do recommend it. Okay, again, you do not have to any confidential, no name, no social security number, no date of birth, nothing whatsoever. Enter the amount and the system will automatically calculate it for you, and you calculate your zakah. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على محمد. تفضل يا جماعة, the floor is yours. طيب. How much time we have, دكتورة? 40 minutes? ما شاء الله. طيب. طيب, let me start from my right side here. I will take maybe one question from sister's side and one question from the brothers. Is that fair enough? طيب, ladies first. تفضل يا أختي. السلام عليكم. Coins. ليرة ذهب. If they are not jewelry and you keep them in your possession for one complete year, and if you add them up to whatever whatever otherwise you have cash money, if they accumulate a nisab, then you have to pay zakat on them. Yeah, you have to. What's that? Well, you as a dad or a mom, you pay zakah on behalf of your child. If they are exclusively owned by the child, and your plan is to keep them for the future, if they accumulate a nisab, then they are zakatable. If they accumulate a nisab, then your child has to pay zakah, as already explained, and you go ahead and pay zakah on his or her behalf. طيب. تفضل. It depends on whether or not you have taken all the possible safety measures. If it is proven that there was a kind of carelessness or negligence or any shortcoming from your side in saving the money, preserving the zakah money, then you have to pay your zakah again. If we can have maybe one conversation, please, if you don't mind, let's listen to the brother here. Tafadhal. So the money is taken by the government?
Yes, other entity, yes. By force or whatever it is, against your will.
Yeah, I need to think more about it. I do not have an answer.
جزاك الله خير. سؤال حدا عنده سؤال؟
طيب sisters تفضل. أعطيهم. Well, I think you are the best person to answer this question, because sisters, know the culture and the prevailing practice and the difference between cultures, age-wise, annual income-wise. Like for example, a wife of a physician, both living in USA, versus a wife of a physician living in Pakistan or in Algeria. Well, they both are wives of physicians, but the country that they are living in is different. So the common practice or the prevailing custom, in USA is different than Algeria, different than Pakistan. So you need to do some due diligence and ask within your community what is the average, and based on that actually you can decide what is acceptable, what is zakah exempt, and what is actually zakatable. No. Just prevailing custom, common practice. Yeah. Potential Muslims. Well, right, no. Al-mu'allafati qulubuhum means potential Muslims. So they deserve that money even if they are extremely wealthy. You do not give them because of their financial need. You give them to soften their hearts and to increase the sense of belonging and loyalty to the Muslim community. You give them the money, as a gift. You don't have to tell them, you don't have to tell them that this is zakah, right? You just give them the money. But your intention actually is to pay zakat al-mal, regardless of their financial status. They might be even wealthier than the zakah payer himself. but they deserve it because of being like so close to Muslims. I mean, you can tell who is hostile and who is friendly and who is, loving individual and who is hating individual and so on and so forth. So use your own discretion, your own assessment to define al-mu'allafati qulub. Someone who loves like Muslims and very close to you and always ask about Islam and shows like due respect for you as a practicing Muslim, that is al-mu'allafati qulub. So you can keep giving them from zakatul mal, even if they are wealthy, even if they are. Al-mu'allafati qulubuhum, according to the strongest opinion, new Muslims, like those who accepted Islam. However, we do have actually like a well-established debate between the four madhahib. Some said that if someone is very close to Islam, you give him the money, okay, before embracing Islam. If you want to be in the safe side, do not give your zakah to non-Muslims. You give zakah to new Muslims. New Muslims like fresh, brand new Muslims who just embraced Islam. In order for you to increase their sense of belonging and loyalty to Islam and Muslims, you give them that money. Again, regardless of their financial status, they might be wealthier than the zakah payer himself. So not the conservative, the strongest opinion is that mu'allafati qulubuhum, in new converts to Islam or new reverts to Islam, not potential Muslims. Say it again, sorry. Yes. Use your own discretion. Like, I mean, if she's a sister, for example, maybe you can give her some gold. Okay, you put your zakah aside, you purchase gold or whatever, something that's valuable, and you give her as a gift. You don't have to tell her that this is zakah. But, I mean, it's just a gift. Yeah.
I have two quick questions. Follow up with her questions. Here, like in America, here in Michigan, the average woman, for instance, in one city, the average woman jewelry is 300 to 500,000. In another city is 5 to 10,000. So which one she should take? Here I'm talking about just 10 miles or 20 miles away. What do you do? Which one she should take?
Wallahi, if that is the case and the difference is significant and huge, I would rather go with the Hanafi approach and just mandate zakah on the jewelry. Just be in the safe side. Even if you do not have to pay zakah, well, if it is not counted technically as zakah, it will be counted as Shadaqah. So just go ahead and just pay zakah on all the jewelry that you have, right? Okay. Otherwise, if it is easy for you to determine, then as we discussed before, you just go with the common practice, with the prevailing custom of that particular community, taking into consideration the differences, right? Age-wise, financial status, the maybe academic qualification, profession, and so on and so forth. In addition to the fact that countries differ from one to another.
And let's say if one center need $100 and your zakat is 25, can you take from the next 3 years 25? Let's say I advance, brother, he asked me for $100 and only I want to pay it from zakat, but I only eligible to pay 25 this year. Can I deduct the next 3 years 25 so I can pay him so he can get his center going and so on?
Yeah. From your side, prepayment of zakah is fine. It did actually happen with the Prophet ﷺ when he asked his uncle Abbas radiallahu anhu to prepay his zakah. However, you need to be careful. You have to make sure that the zakah recipient next year or next years is still eligible zakah recipient. What if he became a wealthy individual? Then you already paid.
About center here.
Islamic Center?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Go for it. Okay. Anybody has
طيب.
questions?
طيب.
Quick question about the jewelry, especially the jewelry now. So if we paid zakah, let's say, on the jewelry this year, and we did not add more jewelry for next year, do we need to pay zakah again on these items?
If you want to go with the Hanafi approach, yes.
Okay, so
Jewelry is equivalent to cash money. Okay. What if you have $100,000?
Yes.
Cash money, okay, saved in your checking account, and you paid 2.5% zakah, and that money actually stayed in the bank account for one complete year. Do you still have to pay zakah on them? Yes. Okay. With maybe a few exceptions here, like when it comes to agricultural products. Okay, you have some harvest, wheat or barley or whatever. You paid zakah on it for this year, okay, and you kept it in your possession for one complete year. You don't have to pay zakah on it, okay, because it's not a growable asset. But the cash money is a growable asset. However, you have chosen not to invest it. Well, that's your choice. As long as you have it in your possession, then you have to pay zakah on it on an annual basis every single year. By the way, I'm representing Guidance College, and there is a a table right there in the back. There are some brochures like to introduce the college more if you want to learn more about the programs that we have. We have bachelor's degree in Islamic studies, we have master's in Islamic education, we have master's in Islamic economics and finance, and we are actually in the process of building a masjid and a main office of Guidance College. So, I mean, we welcome any donation or any support that you might decide to give to the college. Yes, sister, تفضل.
السلام عليكم.
Sorry. تفضل.
السلام عليكم.
السلام.
جزاك الله خير. I'm gonna recode two things you mentioned. You mentioned if somebody start with Ramadan first, $5,000. حال الحول he has 10,000. I think you mentioned that he paid 10 zakah on the 10,000.
Correct.
But the other 5 didn't make the whole year.
That's fine. That's called al-mal al-mustafad.
Okay.
Mustafad actually is the extra money that's added up to the nisab.
Oh, so you pay for the whole 10.
Yeah,
Even if you get it like what, as you stated, one day before.
Let me give you another example.
Yeah.
In Ramadan of this year, right? Okay, you work as a lawyer and you found out that you have $75,000 net amount after all deductions, right? You pay zakat on them. Next year, you found out that you do have $100,000, and you are positive that $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 were deposited into your checking account just 1 or 2 days before Ramadan of next year. Do you have to include everything? Yes, you have to include everything. That's called the mal al-mustafad. The mal al-mustafad is to be added up to the nisab, and it takes the same rule of the nisab. So hawalan al-hawl, the passage of one fiscal lunar year, means on the nisab itself.
Okay.
And whatever is added on top of the nisab. That makes sense.
My second question is, when you said about the chicken or the cows, you said the chicken, I mean, there is no zakah, but there is a zakah on the eggs. Well, let's say there is a farmer.
Not on the eggs, technically, on the money that you make out of selling them.
Selling the eggs, yeah, I mean, but let's say somebody is a farmer, and he's selling the eggs. I'm just recording the exact, selling the eggs to eat, to survive. Does that mean he still have to pay zakah on the eggs, regardless what his cost?
No.
I mean,
No.
or just assuming that all the eggs he got are profit?
Okay, let's say that he makes $5,000 from like eggs business, right? And he spends $5,000. In the zakat due date, how much money he has?
What about his surviving? I mean, his daily expense to live.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. He makes $5,000 and he spends $5,000. So he does not have any nisab to start with. There's no zakah.
Okay.
And that's why we said several times that zakah is due on the remaining income. Whatever you spend throughout the whole year long is not counted. You see what I'm saying? Only whatever you have in the zakat due date.
Just a quick question. In regards to the zakat, if you've had opportunity throughout the year to help out or do anything that qualifies as zakat, would you have had to say that that's towards that, or it could just be...
Would you please repeat the question again?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So throughout the year, you've had opportunity to help in one of the items that, qualifies as zakat, but you
Okay.
didn't say it was zakat. Does that qualify? Like you've
Yes, if you do have the right intention, right?
Right.
Let's say, for example, that you want to pay your zakat to, give me a name, Zakat Foundation, Pure Hands,
No, like
Islamic
you've helped
Relief
with
USA.
You've helped towards operation.
You helped what?
You've supported an operation that would have not been able to happen if
Operation
someone, like a surgery.
So you paid on behalf of someone?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the things that was needed, and community came forward and made that
Did you
possible.
pay on behalf of someone who is an eligible zakat recipient? Needy
yes,
individual
yes.
who cannot afford paying
Yes.
for the surgery?
Yes.
Did you pay it with the intention of paying your zakat al-mal?
No. That's what I'm saying. Like if
Well, next time, make sure that you have an intention prior to paying the money, because zakah is a formal act of worship, which means that, for example, do you pray Salatul Isha and then you say, you know what, I prayed 4 rak'at, I'm going to count it as Salatul Isha. Will it be counted? No. You have to have the intention prior to saying Allahu Akbar. So the intention has to be prepared, it has to be initiated prior to the ibadah, right? So you have your intention and you pray. You have your intention and you pay zakat al-mal. So next time, make sure that you give that money to an eligible zakat recipient, whether a corporate person or like real individual, right? Masjid or school or college or whatever, as well as you have the intention of paying zakat al-mal. With those two conditions, whatever you pay will be counted as zakat. This is actually what I do, by the way. I do have the intention when I like pay throughout the whole year long. I attend several fundraising and I donate, right? My intention is to prepay my zakat.
Okay.
Is to prepay my zakat. And the zakat due date, I find out, alhamdulillah, that I already paid my zakat, even sometimes more. So I'm just good to go.
So if someone is collecting this and it says to you, you could record this towards zakat, then it's okay.
With the proper intention.
Yes.
With the proper intention. So paying to Islamic schools, paying to masajid, paying to guidance college actually is an eligible zakat recipient, by the way. نعم تفضل. طيب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I was told by Sheikh Abdul Hamid Salim, he was at the Masjid ICD, and he said you don't have to pay the zakat in one time. You can pay it frequently, like in portions. It doesn't have to be one time, certain time of the year, like before Ramadan or after Ramadan.
Are you talking about prepaying zakah or whenever the zakah is due and you have the money and you have the recipient?
To clarify, I know the amount of the zakah for the year. It has been already, I calculated. So I took it apart and I just give it away in portions. And I was also told that it's okay to give it for education of a family member.
طيب, more
Towards
than one thing.
education or to paying loans and stuff like that.
طيب, more than one thing here. I know. Now she's talking about something else. She says that her zakah, for example, is $5,000. And you do have the money ready. And you do have eligible zakah recipients. But according to your own discretion, it's not a good option, right, to pay your zakah in full for one individual or at once. And you went to break it down by paying it monthly or periodically. Let me make it clear. We do have a default rule and we have an exception, right? The default rule is that whenever the zakah money is available, you have it, right? And the eligible zakah recipients are available, waiting for you to pay zakat al-mal. The default rule is that you pay your zakat al-mal in full at once, because zakah is like salah. Whenever it is salah time, we stop everything and we stand for the salah. Is that correct? Whenever zakah is due, we stop everything and we pay zakat al-mal. You fulfill your duty toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by paying zakat al-mal. However, in the real life, it might happen that according to your discretion, you want to pay your zakah to one of your relatives, and you are positive that that individual is not good in running his finance. So if you decide to give him the $10,000 at once, he might spend that money wastefully. Can you hold the money? Okay, hold the money and give him on monthly basis whatever is sufficient for him? Yes, you can. Well, according to your discretion and experience with him, even if you give him cash money monthly basis, he is not that good. He might waste the money. Can you purchase in-kind items? Can you pay the bills on his behalf and buy him some groceries and send them to his house? Yes, you can. So the bottom line here is that use your own discretion, okay, to achieve the maslahah. Whatever is most beneficial of the zakah recipients, go for it. However, if you decide to put your zakah money aside, you need to tell your family members that, listen, this amount in this account or such and such amount is zakah. If something happened to me, I passed away, do not confuse that money with, this is haqqullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep it aside This is zakah money, pay it as zakah. And the rest actually is your money. You can divide it according to the Islamic inheritance law. So they have to be like, separated and clear for everybody that zakatul mal is here and my money is here. This zakah money is not mine. Okay, it's haqqullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that clear? طيب.
Barakallah fik, Shaykhna. There is tremendous need for zakat all over the world, obviously, and some countries more than others. Is there any obligation to pay it locally first before you pay overseas? Well, we can pay overseas without having to pay locally first.
We do have flexibility here. We do have flexibility. Transporting zakah from one locality to another is permissible, basically to start with. However, you need to consider the needy individuals in your local community. If you do have some fuqara and masakeen, okay, pray with you in the same masjid, and they are desperate for money, it makes no sense whatsoever to ignore those brothers and sisters who are in need and to send your money or to give your money to the masjid or to build a school or no. You need to start with individuals, okay? Individuals who are in need, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with them. He said, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين, and then way after that, وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. So that order actually emphasizes the need, that you start with the fuqara and the masakin. Al-faqir is the one who makes money, but the money is insufficient. Al-miskin is the one who's running out of resources. Some said al-faqir is the one who asks publicly, and al-miskin is the one who has that self-respect or dignity, does not ask in public. Whatever the difference might be, you start with the needy individuals, okay, to make locally, right? And then after that, you have a lot of flexibility. If I'm in your position, akhi, I would just strike a balance. We American Muslims live here in this society. We have to fulfill our duty to Islam and Muslims in the USA. We have a lot of Islamic organizations, Dur Ibadah, Masajid, we have colleges, we have universities, we have schools, we have civil rights organizations, we have youth organizations, we have political organizations. They all actually need our support. If you want to grow and enroot Islam in this society, we have to fulfill our responsibility. And subhanAllah, in this country in particular, akhi, money is the heart of the Islamic work. Wallahi. No money, no honey, ma fish. So we have to fulfill our duty. Now, you strike a balance. We do have some relatives overseas who are desperate, for our zakah. Send akhi, half your zakah overseas and half of it here, in the US. However, if you decide otherwise, absolutely up to you. You can send your whole zakah overseas. You can keep it, whole here. It's absolutely your call. We do not have any fiqh, restrictions other than the fact that you start with the local needy individuals, and then after that you do whatever you want.
Okay. It looks like it's a very disputable and debatable subject to discuss. So first of all, I would like to know where is a good place to have long discussion about a lot of details and stuff. When can we contact you, or where do we go to? Because a lot of stuff that I hear is confusing me, and I'm not convinced, honestly, with it. So,
if it is a business consultation, actually I do provide business consultation as a side business for me. Okay. So I can give you the link, and you can contact me through a link, and we'll go from there. If it is fiqh or fatwa, I can give you Amjad fatwa hotline, and you call, talk to a mufti live over the phone, ask questions.
Because one of the cross my mind always. Let's say, I think zakat is the system in Islam, and God always gave us fard and that benefit us or the community or something. So of course zakat is one of them, not to hurt us with it. So I think the way of zakat is when we talk about nisab wal hawl. So that's why I'm not disagreeing. Like the gentleman said, and I heard say, you have $5,000 or $10,000 the whole year, then you receive $5,000 last day before. Let's say Ramadan to Ramadan is the fiscal year of zakat. Right. Then you receive $5,000 before in your hand. It wasn't in your hand until you receive in your hand. Then it's subject to zakat. Yeah, it's like no, it has to. لازم يمر عليه another year. So in that term, I want to say that's why nisab will hawl. So if somebody never keep cash, in my case, let's say. I don't keep cash. I have $10,000 open business the next day to hire people, to hire Muslim people to work. I don't save money. My account in the bank always negative. So how is it going to let zakat? But I'm benefiting my community. I think the idea of zakat is so people لا يكنزون الذهب والفضة. That's why والذهب تلبس الذهب وانت لا تستعمل المرأة لازم يفرض عليها الزكاة لأنها لا تستعملها لازم تكنزها يعني. فنفس the same for the cash. If you're not using it, you're عم تحرمها من the community. That's why you have to pay zakat. God says, or you go do something with it, help your community, or you pay zakat. Do you think that's a valid explanation for that?
If you keep donating your money and supporting the community throughout the whole year, so much so that in the zakat due date you do not even have any nisab, and there is no asset that are equivalent or more than nisab, then you are zakat exempt because you paid way more than the zakat. I'm not sure if I got that point.
Well, there's the assets, and there is if like well, again what I asked you earlier. Like if I'm not saving the money, but I'm always let's say starting new business, hiring people, and you don't have cash value, don't have cash. You have assets. I don't know about the assets. Huh?
Well, you might not have cash, but you are still zakat payer if you do have assets who are zakatable.
Okay.
You have accessories business, you have car dealership, you have phone, I mean you have a lot of phones or accessories or cars or groceries, right, in your grocery store, for example, right? You do not have cash money, but you do have zakatable assets. You have urud tijara. Well, you have to pay zakat. It doesn't, I mean, you don't have to limit yourself to cash money. Any zakatable asset is to be charged zakatul mal, based on what you already explained. But again, back to your question, Akhi, if you are paying throughout the whole year long, right? So much so that in the zakat due date you do not have even zakatable assets, no money, no assets, well, you are zakat exempt. No.
So if you pay for politician, well, I'm asking, well, I'm coming. So if you pay for politician like Gretchen Whitmer, is it zakat? You can consider it zakat? Eh?
No. تفضل.
السلام عليكم الله يعطيك العافية. One more time on the 401k. So this is considered for everybody, it's a long-term investment, right? And it is kind of a business for those who really do not have a business. They're putting their money. It's not really saving money. He's investing it as a business. So and I heard you saying, Jazakallah khair, في two opinions, يعني whether تدفع عليها أو ما تدفع عليها. بس هل opinion إنه ما تدفع عليها لأن هي it's a long-term investment as a business growing, you might really, for the accessible profit of it you pay, or you how comfortable are you of not paying for it?
Well,
because it's a long-term investment.
I feel actually more comfortable adopting AMJA position, our fiqh council, because actually this is the big chunk of money that you have. And if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of investment in your 401k and you do not pay zakat on it, then what else you have to pay zakat on? You see? This is from one side. From the other side, this is a pure, straightforward investment. Every single year, the net amount or the market value of the investment is increasing on an annual basis. So, for me, it makes a lot of sense that you find out how much you have an access to and you pay zakat. But to excuse yourself from paying zakatul mal on the total 401k or whatever investment that you have, I don't think this is a valid fiqh opinion. Wallahu alam. Again, it's ijtihad, yani Allahu alam.
Shukran.
Just giving zakat to a sister or a brother.
You want to use the mic, please?
Giving zakat to the sister or brother who's in need, like your own sister or brother.
Yes, you can. The only people that you need to avoid are the ascendants and descendants, like your parents and grandparents, your children and grandchildren. Those are not eligible zakah recipients because of the a mutual sponsorship responsibility between you and your parents and yourself and your kids, right? Otherwise, like your siblings, any other relatives, paternal, maternal, uncles, aunts, cousins, anybody else actually, well, in fact, giving them zakatul mal will be doubling the reward. Because according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, هي صدقة وصلة. It's صلة رحم, having like good relationship with your family members, and a zakat at the same time. So you should give them priority over others. Can you give your zakat al-mal to your needy sibling, your brother or sister? Yes, you can. Of course you can.
Okay. No, his sister. I thought sister أنت فرد لازم تدفع عليها مبلغ.
It's okay. Hey,
Yeah.
just coming back to what you just said, even if it's to pay for their loans or things like that, I know you have a responsibility toward your kids, but if they are adults, if they have loan and you're paying it, they are not recipient.
Can you pay zakatul mal to pay off the loan of your son or your daughter? If that is, yeah, if that is something belongs to sponsoring them, for example, you did not take your responsibility in spending in your child in order for him to survive, okay, and to have the, like whatever he needs. He had to borrow money. Can you pay zakah, okay, on his behalf to pay off the loan? No, you cannot.
No, I understand. That's not the situation. Let's say that he's it's something,
Student loan,
no, but no education. It's like judiciary. He needs money,
judiciary.
like a lawsuit and something like that. That he has like lawyer's bills that he needs to pay. You're responsible for him, but not responsible for the loan, right? But he cannot.
I do not have, honestly, I do not have a specific answer because I need to investigate more. But let me give you an example. Someone gets married, okay, with a woman who does have $100,000 student loans, right? And they just get married. So he gets married while she has that loan. Now, can he pay zakatul mal, to pay off her student loan? Yes, because that's something irrelevant to their marriage, okay? But if they have been married for, let's say, a few years, and he's not that generous, like he's so stingy, right? She had to borrow money to spend on herself, to buy clothes and to buy transportation, food and whatever. Can he pay zakat to pay off the loan? No, he cannot. Because of his shortcoming, she had to borrow. Okay, unlike if they got married and she like came to that marital life with a package of $100,000 student loan. He was not responsible for it. You see what I'm saying? So this is the qa'id, this is the standard. Does it apply to your particular question? Honestly, I do not know because I need to collect like more detailed information to say yes or no. Most probably, no. Most probably. Responsible for the regular expenses. Anything that is irregular, anything that he can live without, yet he decided to borrow money, right? Yes, you can pay zakah. Your dad or your mom, for example, is in debt for something that's irrelevant to you sponsoring them. Can you pay your zakah, okay, on their behalf to pay off their loan? Yes, you can. If it is something, related to your sponsorship responsibility toward them, no, you cannot, because basically you're supposed to sponsor your parents and so on and so forth. Okay? How much time we have, Doctora, for the salah? Are we done?
8 minutes. 8 minutes.
3 minutes? Well, I think. نعم. في عندنا الأخت هون عفوا تفضل يا أخت. طيب if we can have one conversation please, if you don't mind. تفضل يا أخت. Well, there is no one size fits all, unfortunately, here. Let's say that someone like a young professional makes only $70,000. Another young professional makes $500,000. We cannot equate or like treat them equally, because whatever is considered extravagance for the $70,000 guy might not apply to the $500,000. You see. So it depends on the financial status, level of education, what kind of profession. It has to be taken like case by case basis. Okay? If I'm to drive like $500,000 or like a $250,000 car, that's an extravagance for me, right? Okay? If somebody else who makes $4 or $5 million a year and he drives $500,000 worth of a car, it's not extravagance for him. So it has to be taken case by case basis. Say it again, I'm sorry.
Diamond.
No. It's only gold and silver. Only gold and silver. Anything like diamond and precious stones are not zakatable. How? طيب.
Salam alaikum. Allah yajzik khair. You mentioned something talking about primary residence, non-commercial. So if I have a commercial building that I occupy, do I pay zakat on the value of the building? You know, that's number one.
Hold on. Commercial property that you occupy?
That I occupy. My
Well,
office, for example.
it's not commercial. I mean, if you live in it.
Business.
Like عيادة, for example?
Like عيادة, yeah.
Well,
I own the عيادة.
you own it?
Correct.
Well, it's not zakatable.
It's not zakatable.
No, it's not.
Yeah. How about if you have an interest in a business, like, you know, I mean, so do I pay zakat on just the profit, the income that comes from the business, or I have to value
You have
the
interest,
business?
you mean
Like
equity?
Co-owner, yeah, equity in the
مش
business.
interest يعني ربا, no.
No. Equity in the.
Well, it depends on the nature of the business. What kind of business? Is it industrial? Is it commercial? Is it, I mean, what kind
Commercial
of
business.
What kind of commercial business?
Like,
Do you buy and sell real estate?
No. Like lab, for example.
Lab
service.
Laboratory.
Yeah. Laboratory, yeah.
Well, you pay zakat on the money
just
only.
the
So
income.
all the machines that you use to run that lab actually are zakat exempt.
Zakat exempt. Okay. One last thing for the.
طيب, hold on, أخي. If it is an option to like delay the salah, we can stay. I mean, I don't mind. Can we wait?
Almost خلصنا شيء.
طيب.
حدا عنده أي سؤال؟ سؤال خفيف بدك حل منه. زكاة البترول، أي بترول من عنده البترول يا أخي؟
Oil and gas business, you pay 20%. Okay. Well, only the owner of the business needs to pay 20% zakat al-rikaz. And this is just like one approach or one opinion. It's not agreed upon. If you work for an oil and gas company, you don't have to pay 20% zakat. You pay only 2.5% in your income, in your salary, right? Well, this is a public property. There is no zakat on it. Yeah. Well, no zakat on it in a sense that the government actually is not owned by individual, unless you are referring to Muslim or regimes in the Muslim world where the whole country is owned by one individual. Yeah, well, that individual in mind does not even care about zakat. So even if it
جزاكم الله خير.
no politics يا جماعة.
Last question.
If I pay through, let's say, Mercy USA, and then this is a U.S. Government, and I get tax deductible. Let's say I paid $10,000, and then I'm gonna deduct $3,000, gonna come back to me. So I didn't pay $10,000 for zakah.
Can you please?
I'm paying. I paid the $10,000 to support the local Islamic school.
Okay.
This is a tax-deducted organization.
Right.
So some part of this money is going to be deducted from my tax.
Right.
So I'm going to get some money back from the government.
كلوه هنيئا مريا صحتين وعافية.
الله يجزيك خير.
Yeah. And if you don't like that money, just give it to me. I mean, I will be more than happy to take it. طيب أخي, very simple example. Income tax return for those who have low income. They receive money from the government. Well, that's a kind of income. So you just add it up to whatever you have, and if you still have that money till next year, you pay zakat on it. Likewise, no.
الله يجزيك الخير.
إياكم جميعا. نعم. ما عندي إجابة والله. بدي يعني أنيته.
الله يجزيك الخير دكتور معن. It was a great, ما شاء الله, informative lecture. إن شاء الله تعالى.